Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Spilling the Beans. Today I'm sitting down with Q Moldrik. She got married, it used to be Q Patterson. So sitting down with Q, she owns Legacy Digital, which is a social media marketing media company and really kind of like a CMO, like a fractional CMO to businesses, Chief Marketing Officer. And she comes in, helps businesses rebrand, identify who they are, what they stand for. They do a ton of social media stuff. They do a ton of paid ads. They do a lot of SEO. They do website design, all these different things. And they were actually just nominated as one of the top 5 marketing firms in all of Charleston for Best of Charleston, which is like a big deal here in Charleston. And so they've only been in business for about 15 months and already got nominated against all these other companies that have been in business for decades or longer. And so it's really, really impressive. And so I want to sit down with her and talk a little bit about what she's learned over the course of the past 15 months of really building a business, scaling the business. I think she's got 8, 9 employees and about 25, 30 clients, and really, really scaling and all the lessons learned during that process. So let's go meet up with Q. Q, welcome to Spill the Beans.
Hey, Tim.
How are you? All right, so there's been a lot of growth in Legacy Digital. Super excited about it.
Crazy.
Yeah, one of the clients is up for Best Instagram in all of Charleston. Legacy Digital has been nominated for Best Marketing and PR Firm in all of Charleston, which is like, it's like a really, really big deal. It's like it does not happen, especially doesn't happen to a company that is in their second year of being in business. And so super proud of you, super proud of the team. You guys have done a phenomenal job. And I want to talk a little bit about some of the lessons learned over the past 18 months or so as you've scaled the business. Talk a little bit about growing a team. I want to talk a little bit about a lot of the clients and expectations that maybe social media, right? Am I going to get rich right out of the gate, or is this a long-term play? I want to talk a little bit about that stuff. I want to talk about AI also, and I think artificial intelligence and how over the past 18 months that has been a huge buzzword, obviously, and there's a lot of things going on, and a big portion of AI has been put towards marketing, and you guys have gone all in on understanding it, how to use it, some of the best marketing resources through AI. And so I want to dive into as much of that over the next 30 minutes as possible. So
good luck.
Well, let's start out first with talk a little bit about some of the growth and the learning and building the business. Maybe things that you didn't expect as you were growing your agency and as you've built out a team. What are some of those things that came as a surprise, whether that's a good surprise or a big learning lesson?
Yeah, well, I mean, everything's been a lesson because this is my first time doing this. And if I didn't have Scott Hannes, if I didn't have you and the support team that you have brought with this partnership, I would not have been able to do it by myself. It's something that has definitely supported me in making the right decision the first time versus like running into so many walls. So I would like to start the tone with that. I didn't figure this all out by myself. I had mentors to go to be like, hey, should I do this? Should I not do this? Also, tying AI into it a little bit, we launched our business. It technically on the EIN number, it says, or the page, it says December 28th, 2022. AI was launched 1 month before that. So it was just getting, or ChatGPT, so it was just getting into a flow of things. So I had built out this whole process without this concept of AI. And then when I got like 6 months in, I was like, well, we should really just look into this AI thing. And we had to change everything, right? So it's been pivot after pivot after pivot after pivot. So it's been a lot. I would say, I wish I did this partnership a long time ago. That's a lesson learned. I wish I made hires faster because I can't do it all by myself. That's for sure.
What do you think is the holdup with most entrepreneurs on hiring?
Financials. You're scared. Like you're making that. Oh, I have to pay $50,000, $60,000 salary. I barely could pay myself. So Abby, my COO, was my first hire, but I brought her on as a contractor. And for every client I brought on, I charged them $1,000 a month, and I paid her $200. So I remember asking her, I was like, how much do you need to make to quit your job to come work for me full time? And she gave me a number, and I was like, well, that's not happening right now. So I built up to that, and I also considered I'm not paying her that much money out of the gate, right? And I said if I give myself 90 days to have Abby prove herself, and if I see an increase in the bottom line, then this was a good decision. And it did. It 3x'd my business within 3 or 4 months, and I was bringing on tons of clients. I was able to focus on revenue generating opportunities while she could handle the operational component of the business. So that just started to trickle, right? And now we have a team of 13 people, which is crazy. Those do include VAs overseas, but it's still insane in a year.
It's really cool to hear you talking in like you know what you're talking about, right? And the conversations that you're having today versus 2 years ago, right? When we first, or 3 years ago when we first started working together, as I was one of your clients, and how you've grown from a business perspective. It's really fun to see. You talk about revenue generating activities, right? And staffing out the other items and looking at things from hey, I don't have to take on a $60,000 a year salary. It's $5,000 a month for 90 days. And that puts things in a different perspective. 100%. Can I test this thing out and see how it plays out? If it doesn't work, if it's not a good fit, then it's not a $60,000 risk. It's a $15,000 risk. And it's a $15,000 learning lesson that you learn for 15 grand versus 150 grand or 1.5 million in the future. You got to do those things. And I think those are awesome lessons. And then the pivoting. It's like entrepreneurship is a constant pivot all the time, right? If you get too set in one direction of only doing one thing, not from a focus perspective, but just doing it this way all the time, the markets are cyclical, right? Economies are cyclical, like industries are cyclical, and everything is overlapping all the time. You have to be flexible. You have to be able to pivot. You have to be able to dodge and weave and shift fairly quickly too, you know?
And through that, I've built so much tenacity. Like I've come to you multiple times in our CEO meetings. I'm like, we're gonna fail, we're not gonna make this, and you're like, we're fine. Like this is like peon work compared to what I've dealt with, and you just build this like wall of toughness. So when things get hard, because you're pivoting, what you thought you know yesterday is completely different today, you know. And I'm a process person. Like if things aren't going according to plan, then it doesn't work. And guess what? It doesn't work all the time. So that's been another learning lesson for me. When things get hard, I'm like, we'll get through it. It's fine. It's like, it's just another mountain we'll have to climb. And that's been monumental this year, because with this much growth that we've had, there's been a lot of barriers that I have never crossed before, ever crossed before. And it's just like, there ain't nothing to it but to do it. You just got to get it done. And that's, I think for me personally, I've learned a whole new role as a CEO. I was operations the entire time before being a boss and being a leader. And I've had to completely step back and just allow change to happen and be okay with it. So.
Well, I mean, I saw a quote actually on social media today. It was no amount of regret will change the past. No amount of anxiety will change the future. Right? No amount of worrying is going to change the future, right? But any amount of gratitude will change the present. And if you just look back, right, and the whole book, The Gap and the Gain, that came out last year, is about, instead of worrying about you know, what you're going to be able to accomplish or how you haven't hit your goals, and all of us always move that goalpost of like pushing it forward. If I can just get to this point, if I could just, and then you get there and you're like, if I could just get to that point, and it's like, well, shit, turn around and look at where you came from. You know, and look at the 0 employees 2 years ago and how everything's changed, and that level of gratitude is very empowering. Then you come into the team, guys, this is where we came from, this is where we are today. We got a lot to be thankful for. Let's punch through any of these hurdles, and it's it gives you more strength in order to move forward and do some big things. So that's awesome.
And it's taught me too, with that in mind, like when I was working for myself, I was always in a mindset of scarcity, right? So I said yes to every single opportunity that came my way, no matter if it was a fit for me or not. If you came to me and you were like, hey, I want to code a website, I'll be like, yeah, I need the money. I'll figure out how to do it. And that, I mean, I think that attributes to me being like where I am today. I taught myself a lot, and you know, I'm able to still stay in the operations because I do have a pulse on the, you know, the process a little bit. But I've learned that not every client is a good client for us. Not every service we need to create. And in the beginning, I was so scared of failure. I thought that it was inevitable. But so I said yes to everything. I said yes to every client that came on. I said yes to every service, even if we were like not the best at it. And it hurt us, and it stressed my team out. It put them underwater. They were like, wait, we kind of know how to do this, but we don't know how to do it efficiently. And it really helped me reel in saying no, offering what we offer, and being confident with that, and not being confident like, oh, we don't know everything, right? I'm the person that's like, I want to take care of it all, but I've learned that I can't do that.
Yep. And I think, we all want to have it all figured out. The reality is nobody does. And unless you go through that process, you didn't know that wasn't the right thing, right?
Yes.
Like with the information that you had at the time, you made the best decisions that you could at the time, right? And so we all go through these graduated steps. I started out in the friggin' war zones of East Cleveland, buying rental property with literally shootings going by. The contractors would get on the floor and wait for all the bullets to stop flying through the house. And it wasn't even shooting at the house. It was just a gunfight going down the street, And like very real shit. Very real houses getting broken into all the time. All the copper getting ripped out, right? All the mechanicals getting ripped out. And it was like, oh shit, there's something better, right? I can get into C class or B class or God forbid A class properties, right? And then I understood, going from single family into duplexes and quadplexes and then small multifamily and then larger commercial. And but you don't even know, you step on this, learning curve in order to go and continuously progress, right? And that's just something that every business owner has to go through. And you go through, hey, I don't like working with this kind of a client, right? This is our real avatar of who we want to do more business with. Now let's get more targeted. And you keep on elevating over and over and over again as you learn more. And that's why it's so important to have a long-term mentality, right? Like the biggest issue is if you said, hey, I'm going to dip my toe in the water and try this business out for a year, you go through all the learning curves the first couple of years, right? But you're planting all those seeds that will eventually lean into a harvest, but you don't get that harvest until year 3, 4, and 5 and beyond. And that's when business becomes easy because you've already gone through all the shit. You've already gone through all the difficulties. You've already gone through the bad team members, the bad vendors, the bad clients, and all that stuff. And you've learned along with the team and grown with the team over the course of 3, 4, 5 years. And that's the part where a lot of business owners, I think, jump ship and they think the grass is going to be greener over here. Let's go and try something new. Let's go and try this or that or whatever. And they never give it the 3 to 5 year timeline for it to get into a real cadence and make it easier. And then all of a sudden, the hardest part is getting the plane off the ground. Once the plane's in the air, it's a totally different story.
Yeah, and that's true. I mean, I think that analogy, I learned that I think for the first time in Nashville when you talked about it. I don't know if it was Nashville, but you put those 3 pictures on the screen and I was like, okay, like I can't freak out until year 4, right? So I everything you're saying is so true. Like year 1 it was like we just threw all the seeds out. In year 2, we're seeing what's sprouting right now. We're seeing
some
what's
of them got
working.
burned up. Some of them got
Some
blown
just
away.
didn't even grow.
Some of them were bad seeds, right? That happens. But if you say, hey, I'm only going to focus on those seeds as opposed to these other ones that did take root, right? That did get watered, that did get the sun, that did get the fertilizer. And all of a sudden, we're starting to see fruits, and cultivate those relationships and cultivate those clients and cultivate those processes and systems and team members. Like, if you focus on these seeds over here that didn't take root, you said, I'm never going to plant again. Dude, of course you're destined for failure, right? And that's the wrong thing to focus on. Is focus on the seeds that do take root and how those are going to continue. And guess what? Some of those seeds that you thought were dead just take a little bit longer to take root, right? It took 5 years instead of 2 years or 12 months or whatever it is.
And that's tough in a world of like immediate gratification when you want things done right then and right there. So I've definitely learned patience, that's for sure, and understanding that it's not going to happen right here, right now, and it takes time.
Yep. The other thing, we had our CEO meeting this morning, and the other thing that I've noticed, and this took me a long time to figure out, that you figure out right away, is you're operating the business from the profit and loss statement. Most people don't. Most people operate based on what's in the bank. Most people operate based on feeling. And if you operate the business based on the profit and loss statement and you make decisions based on that, it's a math equation. Business is a math equation, right? And we let drama and emotions get in the way of
Yeah.
it. And if you just stick to math and data and metrics, it takes the emotion out of it.
Yep.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
unfortunately, we had a really, really tough, conversation that we had to have this week and let an employee go. At the end of the day, it wasn't about whether we liked that person or didn't like that person. It was about the metrics that
Yeah.
were involved with it,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And certain metrics either not being met or too many expenses or whatever that was, but it still tugs on our heart. But at the
Yes.
end of the day, it's a business decision based on metrics. And when you focus on the metrics and you measure the team by metrics, and you measure financials by metrics,
Yep.
and you measure performance by metrics and client interact, and you put a number to it, you can see if there's growth, you can see if there's decline, you can see if there's performance or not performance and what that looks like, and then you can more easily make decisions, and it doesn't turn into an emotional
100%.
do they like me, do they not like me kind of a thing.
Yeah.
It's just, this is what it is.
Yeah, and that's like in this, I think in any business, but specifically in ours, in a digital world where shit changes every single day, that's the anchor that holds us down. So we know, like, okay, do we need to add this service? Do we need to pivot here? And we come back to the foundation, to that P&L, which took me a while. Like, I've truly, before this, I never knew how to properly read a P&L and how to analyze it and look at it. And still to this day, it's terrifying to look at. It's like looking at your bank account when you're younger, like, oh my God, am I going to be able to pay the bills?
Yeah.
Right? But it's tried and true, and it's factual. It's a formula, and it doesn't lie. And that's something that, trust me, I get passionate, I get excited. I'm like, oh, let's buy this, let's go do this, let's add this in, let's get merch or whatever. And I'm like, wait, we can't do that yet, right? We have to, this says we can't, so we can't do it.
Those were emotional decisions.
Yes.
You go back to the metrics and the data,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
No, I love it. So, learned a lot. What about building a team? How has that process been?
Amazing. It's my favorite part. I'm the oldest of 5 kids. I'm the oldest of 17 grandchildren, and everybody, I'm like, they say the oldest sibling's like the manager of the family. So I've innately always had that in me. I'm a nurturer. I could take care of people. I can dominate a room in a productive, nice way. So that's been the best part about this process, is having a team. Of course, we've had some hires that didn't work out, and that I've learned a lesson with that it's, when you have a gut feeling something's not going to work out, then 9 times out of 10 it's not going to work out.
You're
In the
100%
beginning,
right.
I tried, because again, I'm like, I want to take care of you. I believe in you. I know you can make this work. But that's not up to me, right? And going back to the business, is this safe for the business? And now I know if somebody isn't really performing in 90 days, we'll give them that extra 30 days to get them to 120. And if they're not pretty self-substantial and taking ownership of their clients, and they're not really in the process, our process is insane. And it's very, very, very diligent and task oriented, but there's something to follow. And if you can't keep up with that, and you can't keep up with the hustle of this business and the constant changes and the dynamics of our clients, then this isn't for you. And we've learned to let them go faster, which is always hard for me to do. I hate firing people, and especially young kids who are just trying to find their way in this world, and I don't want to be that first impression where it's negative. So what I've done is gone back to my hiring process, and Abby does all of our hiring, our COO, but when she now knows that we say, hey, this is not a 9 to 5. This is not a Monday through Friday. You're going to work holidays. You're going to work weekends, very much so like hospitality. Social media is on 24/7. If you're not willing to work 50 to 60 hours a week, if you're not willing to work weekends and work late nights, this isn't the job for you, right? So we kind of put that mentality in there, and I don't want this to be a grind hustle mentality, but that's just the business we're in right now.
That's where we are. We're
a
startup.
startup. We're a startup, yeah. So we set that tone early on, and we have found, again, and we could talk about the sales process earlier, setting the tone, whether it's hiring or bringing on a client, is crucial to the longevity of a system or a process or an employee or a client, right? If we're so clear and transparent initially, then they know going into it what to expect, rather than them coming up with their own perceived concept of how this should be.
I agree.
Yeah.
And I've seen it over and over and over again, where the expectation is up here, the deliverable is down here, and that's where the problems are, right? Like Charlie Munger, who is Warren Buffett's right-hand man, just passed away. He's got a famous quote. He says, a lifetime of happiness is predicated based on having low expectations.
Yes.
Right? That's what he says.
Yep.
A lifetime of happiness can be found by having low expectations. And he's like, he just doesn't expect anything. Like, he knows people aren't who they say they are.
Yeah.
They don't do what they say they're going to do,
Yeah.
right? Like, he sets very clear expectations, so that way it's easy to exceed those expectations with his clients, with his investors, with his partners, with his employees, with all those things. And so I think that's, when you're starting a business or you're trying to attract talent, I think a lot of people mess up by setting these unbelievable expectations of how amazing this job's going to be. And so that's what the employee walks into. And they think it's going to be here. It's very hard to exceed that,
Yeah.
right? And when it doesn't come in, and when there's tough times, where there always are, then there's the gap, right?
Absolutely.
And so by sitting down with somebody and saying, hey, this is going to be the ride of your life, but there's a lot of difficult say all those difficult things that they're going to be facing, but it's going to be an amazing ride.
Absolutely.
And you're going to be rewarded incredibly once we get through the growth phase and we hit the stride that we're looking to hit in. And
you have people, I call them intrapreneurs, right? They're not the entrepreneur, like we're the crazy ones that take on all the risk, but my entire team, every single person on my team has that entrepreneurial mindset. They look at this business and it's succeeding based off how well they do, right? They're not in it to clock in and clock out. And that's what I'm so obsessed about with having a team and hiring this young generation who has a lazy mentality and filtering through that and finding these girls who are just absolute savages. Like they stand apart from their generation, and I'm putting them in jobs that they probably wouldn't get for 5 to 10
Agreed.
years, right? They're in lead management roles at the ripe age of 23 years old, and they're handling hard conversations and making big decisions. And we're very much a team. It's not like, oh, Q's here, we can't talk about this, or I make decisions with them, right? I rely on them because they're the ones that are keeping the bus moving, right? If I'm making a decision, they're making it with me. And that has given them so much confidence. And when they're confident, they could have a multi-million-dollar client come in and sit down and have an eye-to-eye conversation and run the conversation. You don't see that often with this younger generation. And all these girls are killing it. And they start off, they might be a little scared, but then you just gotta chip away at them and build their confidence. And that's been my favorite part about having a team is just watching these girls flourish and become super independent and confident and be able to handle things that they normally wouldn't handle. So.
And it's unbelievable to see how much they've all grown in a very short amount of time.
Yeah.
And going back to, on a startup business, do we all wish we could pay everybody 6 figures? Yeah. We wish we
I would love
could.
to pay them that,
But the reality is, cash is trapped, right? Cash is tight. And so you have to pay somebody. Compensation is only one part of the package, though. Right? The actual cash is only one. There's work-life balance, right? There's growth. Personal growth is a big part of why somebody would come and work for a company, because they have growth potential. They have more opportunity in a startup than they ever would in a Fortune 500 company that's been around for X number.
There's so many ceilings that they hit.
Right.
Yeah.
They got to wait for somebody to die or get fired above them in order to move up.
Facts.
Whereas as we grow, they're coming into a manager position. Then they're going into a senior manager position, potentially an executive role eventually in a relatively short amount of time, where it would take somebody an entire career to try to get there and probably still wouldn't. They have a much greater likelihood of doing that. And so there's the career growth. There's also the personal growth, right? They're not going to get to sit down with 7, 8, 9-figure business owners in any other company and be able to grow and get stretched like that, where they have that opportunity now. Now they're advanced from their peers another 5 to 10 years ahead. How does that compound over time to even put them in a better position for their career in the future? And so it's really exciting, and you've done a phenomenal job of finding and attracting good talent. It starts with leadership. And so by you exuding confidence and exuding leadership skills and being somebody that they want to be locked in arms with and moving in the same direction and being on that train, it speaks testaments to you too. So you're doing an awesome job.
I love it. It's the best part of my job.
So let's talk about clients. And so obviously you guys are, I know that you've initially branded as social media managers, right? Of helping people grow their social media. And over the past couple of months, we've been talking, it's like, you guys are so much more than social media managers. You guys are chief marketing officers for a company, right? Instead of having to hire a CMO for $5,000-$6,000 a month that comes in once a month and gives you advice, like you guys are doing all the branding, right? You guys are doing all the the process for a branding and just discovery process and auditing of what a brand is. Most people don't even know what that is, and that's part of the process that you guys just include, right? Where that should be $20,000-$25,000 that gets billed out in order to just help a business do that. You guys just include it into the initial process. And then you're doing the social media marketing, you're doing SEO, you're doing website development. There's so many different components and that you guys have access to. It's so much more than just social media, right? Talk a little bit about how the expectations with clients have changed. I think marketing is one of those things where it is metric based, but social media marketing is very difficult to see immediate growth,
returns,
right? So talk a little bit about how you set proper expectations and somebody who's looking to grow their social media following, what can they expect in 12 months, 24 months, 36 months?
Absolutely. Yeah, so another learning lesson, setting proper expectations with clients on that first initial call, right? Attrition's real, right? And we want clients that stay with us long term. I don't want to gain a client, lose a client, gain a client, lose a client, and just play this cat and mouse game. It's stressful, right? And I want people to, if they do leave us, it's not because of a service that we offered, it's because they just either need to move on, they couldn't afford it, or they're have other opportunities. And in the beginning, I was so eager to get clients and to lock things in. And once we built our process, I quickly realized that I need to change my sales pitch, right? And I need to be more transparent. Not that I wasn't lying, I felt confident in what we were doing. We just weren't getting the results that we wanted.
It wasn't part of the conversation.
Yeah.
You knew it. And the disconnect is you knew this is something you do all day, every day.
Yes.
It's in the back of your head like this is common knowledge. You're not going to get rich in 36 or in 60, 90 days.
Yeah.
But the client doesn't know that.
Yeah, and that's the part, like on social media and marketing in general, people will sell that to you. We'll get you 10,000 followers in 30 days, and that's unfortunately been a tone that's been set, and that's not real. That's not real unless you buy.
They're fake followers.
They're fake. It's not real.
They're fake. I got duped into it, right?
Yeah.
I'm still battling.
Yeah.
How adversely it's affected my
data.
Engagement.
Yeah.
Right, because I got duped into hey, we'll get you up to 100,000 followers, blah blah blah, no problem, and they got a bunch of people from fucking Laos, right? Or somewhere across the other side of the world that is an account that doesn't engage, that doesn't give a shit about real estate or doesn't care about entrepreneurship. Yeah. And because that doesn't engage, then it my real followers, my organic followers that I've grown over time, the other 60, 70,000, 75,000 of them, don't get the content because it just screws it all up.
We ran a test on your account, and 97% of your followers are real.
Oh,
so
well, that's good
you guys
news.
have done a good job of transitioning that, but it does.
It was a process, though, right? We were at like 60, 65,000, Jed, of real organic followers, and then all of a sudden, somebody's like, I'll get you up to 100,000. So they got like 40,000 followers.
But they
were
call them real
fake.
people. They say, they're real people. They just don't know. They use language to sell you into it, and it's going to mess with your data. So we have clients come in, they're like, it says they have 50,000 followers, 100,000 followers. So the first thing we do is look at their data, and we're like, okay, this is in the Middle East. 75% of clients are in the Middle East. Like, we know that these are purchased, and we prefer to start fresh. Let's kill this profile and start over organically and build from there.
It goes back to the 5-year, 3-year rule, whatever you want to call it. Well, we call it 3-year principle, but really it's 10,000 hours to become an expert at anything is what it's rooted in. And it takes 5 years to become an expert at something. It takes 3 to 5 years to grow a true, organic, a real follower.
Absolutely.
Right? And it's much better to have
intense consistency and strategy. Like, it's not like, I'll just post once a week. This is a different world that we live in. It's not MySpace. It's not like, this is just this fun social community. This is like a digital world of yourself. This isn't, and that's like going back to the sales process. I'm now telling my clients, you will not see an ROI for a while. And we might get some viral hits. We might get some, random pops of, exciting data, but this is a long-term play. And I gave the analogy yesterday. I think it was to my team. I'm not sure who I was talking to, but think about in the olden days, we had a phone book, right? If your number wasn't in the phone book, they wouldn't know where to call you.
Yep.
So that's the new phone book is social media, right? And that's your digital business card. It's your digital personality. And, people might call it creeping or lurking and, but no, that's how people do their due diligence, right?
If you don't have a social media account, you are not a person. Like you're not existent.
Well,
you're not in existence.
If I'm going to make a decision and
like people have no idea who you are. They
Yeah.
have no idea if they should hire. What do you stand for, right?
Yeah.
Like it's your digital business card.
Exactly. And I respect people who want to stay, personal with their lives and whatnot. But if you have a business, that shit needs to be online, right?
Right.
Your website's great. That's a great proving point that you are real and do what you do. But the social media is where you show the case studies, the testimonials, you being an authority in your industry, and people going there and be like, wow, instead of me choosing this real estate investor who has one post and hasn't done anything in years, I'm gonna go with this guy. He's legit. He's out and about. He's doing things. He's closing deals. He's hosting events. He's on podcasts. He's with his family. He's a good guy. He's somebody that I want to be a part of. Right? They make that decision just from looking at your digital profile. So that takes time though. When we post predominantly organic, and that's something we're evolving in this year, we're going to be adding more paid into our process, predominantly with brick and mortar locations and products, but paid does help boost it a little bit, but regardless, you have to organically post. You have to have an organic presence or it doesn't work. And when people are dropping out 90 days into the process, it's not going to work. You just have to. So I've been setting that tone in the process. You got to at least commit to 1 year of this process with us, and you'll see ROI. And it's not going to be, oh, this click happened, it went to my bank account. It's going to be like, hey man, I've been following you for a year. I would love to be a part of your mastermind. Or how do I get involved with it? And that guy's been watching you for an entire year.
I've had people hit me up. Well, let me back up. I've been on social media since 2006 or 7 whenever Facebook came out when I was in college. From there, I started talking about business stuff in 2010, 12, somewhere in there when I started doing real estate.
Right.
I'm doing real estate and I'm posting, not consistently, but I'm posting every once in a while, maybe once a week, twice a week, or a couple times a month, let's call it. It wasn't until 2017 that the first person, I didn't even know what it was. I didn't know what I was going to offer. I was just trying to help people with their life, letting them know that they can go buy a piece of rental property and really build a lot of wealth. 2017 was the first time anybody ever reached out and said, can I pay you to coach me?
Yeah.
I didn't even know that was a thing. I didn't even know that was what was developing. I didn't know that was happening underneath the surface. And it turned into a business because I was consistent over time.
Yeah.
But guess what? It took 5 years of inconsistently in order to see some results. You can see them faster if you're very intentional and you're looking to promote. And the guys at, was it 506B Capital? Or
608B.
608B Capital. They're intentional, right? They're out there, they're
amazing.
posting, they're talking about how they're raising money and how they are, what they invest in, what it looks like, how they underwrite it, what the due diligence process is, who they partner with, who they lend to, educating on the process, bringing on attorneys, bringing on CPAs.
They show their personality. Because that's love real estate, but it could be a little dull and dry sometimes when you're talking about all those things. But those guys apply their personality, their real life to their digital life. And that's where the conversions happen, and they're consistent with it.
Yep, and they're building trust, right, by showing their personal life. They're building respect by showing that they know what the hell they're talking about as they educate people through the process. And how long have they been clients of yours?
They started in November.
In November, so it's been 5 months, 4 months, yeah. Let's call it 5 months. In 5 months, they've raised hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars by this point, of private money.
Yes.
And there is a very real ROI that they're seeing
Yeah.
from continuously posting and being very intentional about their posts and being focused on content creation as opposed to content
Yeah.
consumption.
Well, and if they're going to your summits 4 times a year, right? And yes, business card, phone numbers, cool, gets lost, lose it in the phone. But follow me on social media, and that timeline's always popping up, and it's like, hey, I met Jason Seward at this conference for the first time. He seemed like a cool guy. I followed him. And then you have a 3-month time span where you're not going to see Jason again to the next summit, but you're following him. You're like, oh, this guy's killing it. Like, he's out here raising money deals. He seems like awesome. He likes to hunt. He's into his cold plunging. I love cold plunging too. I cannot wait to see him until the next summit. Next summit comes up, be like, hey man, I want to invest. I want to be a part of what you're doing. It looks amazing, right? So
he never had a phone call with you.
Never.
Never had an
Never
exchange
met.
an email,
Yeah.
right? Like, and all of a sudden it turns into this, I know him, right?
Yeah.
He's my buddy.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
let's
yeah,
go hang
yeah.
out because of social media and the
Yeah.
connections that it can
Yes.
create.
Yeah.
And you do get your daily dose of whoever that person is.
Yeah.
Or people are getting a daily dose of you as somebody who's creating content on a regular basis. And that develops trust. To your
Yeah.
point before of like, people I've never talked to before hit me up on a direct message and they'll be like, hey man, I just sold my company. I got about $500,000 to $1 million that I want to deploy with you.
Yep.
What?
Yeah.
Who am I? You don't even know.
Yeah.
I don't know who you are. You don't
Yeah.
know why. No, dude, I've been following you for 3 or 4 years. I know
Yeah.
you're a good guy. I know you're a family man.
Yeah.
I like what you talk about on real estate. I have the same, long-term goals of building wealth.
Yeah.
And I want to deploy this money with you.
Yep.
And that's the power of consistently posting over a long period of time where now people know you. Now
Yeah.
you're buddies, now you're friends. And when you get together, there's an instant connection.
Culture, it's community, it's called a brand, right? People think a brand is a logo and colors and fonts, but a brand is a culture, right? And we're going to speak about that at a panel soon, but a brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room, right? Your brand isn't what you think you are, it's what your followers and fans think you are. That's how you're perceived. And that's something that we want to try to make authentic as possible. And that's why, yes, consistency in it, definitely establishing yourself professionally as an authority with professional content, but that candid behind the scenes content, like, Jed, what's the best performing little snippets on Tim's profile that do really well, that have nothing to do with business?
And now, a quick thought from Tim Bratz.
Has hair on it, and I got to figure out where that hair is.
This has been a quick thought from Tim Bratz.
The quick thoughts kill it, right? It's these 3-second segments, and I always stop your story and I'm like, I gotta watch this because it's gonna be awesome.
Click through.
And it has. Yeah, it has.
And then
no,
people stop.
I watch it.
Oh, thanks, Q.
But I do when
She's
I
sweet.
get excited for those because I'm like, he's gonna say something funny. And it has nothing to do with investing money or it's just something fucking random and hilarious.
And now, a quick thought from Tim Bratz.
Meeting with employees. This is where I fucking drop the ball.
Quick thoughts by Tim Bratz.
This has been a quick thought from Tim Bratz.
All right. Well, I mean, we've gone over so much stuff and didn't get into AI, so we're going to do
Right,
another
next
one,
time.
and we're going to
Yes.
dive into some AI stuff and put some tactical strategies and things in place. But if you guys are interested in doing and growing your social media following, growing your presence, because it opens up so many doors. And you don't need 100,000 or 1 million followers. You need 5 to 10,000 quality followers. If you have 5,000 quality followers, you can move mountains. You can move industries. You can do so many, there's no limit to how much business you can do and the lifestyle that you can have because you have a great community. I think about the movie 300, right? Like the 300 Spartans. These were tribal followers of the king of Sparta that went and fought an army of 10,000 and won,
Yeah.
right? Because of the tribe, because of the following that they had. And I think it's very real in social media too. I think
So
it's
true.
if you have this tribe, you can do some amazing, incredible things and
Facts.
take down deals together and raise capital together and buy businesses and sell businesses and launch opportunities and educate and have a book, and everything's an instant success because you have a community, right?
Absolutely.
And so it's not about success or failure. It's what varying level of success as you continue to grow your influence. And I don't think there's anything more important than you could be doing long term for your personal brand, your personal business, than growing a social media brand.
And starting now.
And starting now.
Starting
and
now.
staying
Don't be that
consistent over
person
time.
like, God, I wish I would have started that years ago.
Call
This is
these
a
guys.
process.
We'll drop their contact information in the show notes because Legacy Digital, I've had you guys you're on retainer in what, 2 or 3 of my businesses
Yeah.
for, for as long as 3 years from
Mm-hmm.
now. And then we got you on 3 different businesses now. So they do a phenomenal job for me, and I couldn't put them on a high enough pedestal because the team is just absolutely rock solid. So reach out to them if you guys do want to grow your social media following or any other marketing type stuff that you're looking to do, websites, SEO, paid ads on Facebook and Instagram, and there's 1,000 other things. So reach out to them. They can handle anything in your marketing suite that you're looking to have done. So appreciate you, girl.
Yes,
Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Hey, hopefully you got a ton of takeaways from that. If you need any marketing services, definitely connect with Q. They are the best that I have seen. I've been utilizing them for about 3 years now, and I mean, like, they mean so much to me that I actually invested in the company because I believe in what they're doing and how well that they do it. So definitely connect with them, and they'll make sure that you're taken care of for all your marketing needs. And I'd love to hear your biggest takeaways. All right, put them in the comment section below. Some of the things that Q had mentioned in her growth in business. I'd love to hear if you've experienced those same things as you've grown your business, or kind of if you're going through that, or if you have any questions, please put it in the comments section. We'd love to create some content around it, maybe interview Q again and answer some of those questions for you. So appreciate you being here. See you next time on Spilling the Beans.